Imagine finding a cursed dagger that can kill demons, only to discover that the demons are already coming for you. When an ancient book unleashes a terrifying force from hell, a family is trapped inside a house where nobody can be trusted, not even the dead. As the night gets darker, loved ones turn into deadites, brutal murders begin, and one woman is forced to fight through an entire family of demons just to survive. But the real nightmare is this: the demon hunting her has a connection to her own past. So how does she survive this blood-soaked night? Let's find out as we break down Evil Dead Burn. At the beginning of the story, an audio clip is played featuring ancient history professor Dr. Benjamin Price, who is researching the Book of the Dead, known as the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. He explains that the book, which had been considered fictional for centuries, actually exists in the real world. After an occult group called the Circle of Wise Men discovers the Necronomicon, they ignore Benjamin's warnings and read the cursed incantation written in the book, Kundastrata, Santos, Kanda. This opens the gates of hell and awakens the Kandarian demons. And when these demons possess a human body, they are called deadites. Typically, in previous Evil Dead stories, we saw that the only way to kill a deadite was to completely destroy its body. That's why the chainsaw has become such a vital part of the Evil Dead franchise. However, Benjamin Price had discovered another effective way to eliminate deadites, the Kandarian dagger. He had sealed it away using occult rituals. He did this because if the Kandarian dagger were ever unsealed, the deadites would sense it and come after it to destroy it. But when Benjamin's grandson Joseph unseals the Kandarian dagger, which had been hidden for years in his grandfather's lake house, while researching a book he was writing, a submerged deadite awakens beneath the water. This is none other than Jessica from Evil Dead Rise. She was possessed by a deadite and had killed Teresa and her friend Caleb in this very lake. That day, two friends, Leo and Jarrett, come to the lake to go fishing. Leo's girlfriend had heard many rumors about the lake. That's why she had been nagging Leo from the very beginning about going there. Meanwhile, when a call comes in, Leo steps away to talk, leaving Jarrett behind. Suddenly, a big fish gets hooked on Jarrett's fishing rod. As he excitedly pulls on the line, what seemed like a lucky catch turns into a nightmare within a single second. Because there isn't a fish on the hook. Instead, it's the severed head of Teresa from Evil Dead Rise. Before Jarrett can even react, the deadite Jessica brutally drags him into the water using the fishing line. A short while later, Leo returns and sees Jarrett in the middle of the lake. He takes the boat out to rescue him. Jarrett desperately tries to climb aboard, but ultimately only half of Jarrett's body comes up. Right then, he sees Jessica raising half of her head out of the water and staring directly at him. Before he can even comprehend what is happening, Jessica flips the boat, sending Leo crashing into the water. And for the first time, we get to see deadite Jessica in her complete form. As Jessica begins boiling the lake water to cook Leo alive, Leo barely manages to reach the shore, hoping to survive. But in the end, he breathes his last. Jessica simply walks over his corpse and heads toward the main road. She stands there waiting until nightfall because she needs to reach her destination and find the Kandarian dagger. And how she gets there is what we're about to see. Just then, a car speeding down the road slams into Jessica. Now, to understand where this car came from, we have to go back a few hours earlier to Joseph's birthday party at a hotel. This hotel is Will's family business, where his wife, Alice, handles the billing. Present at the party are Joseph's girlfriend, Thea, his older brother, Will, and Will's wife, Alice. However, during the party, an argument breaks out between Will and Alice when she goes to get champagne, and Will whistles to call her over. Will stops Alice from smoking and drinking because they have to drive home. And this time, Will wants a child. Even though hot-tempered, Will manages to calm down for a moment, seeing the special gift Alice gave Joseph, along with how close the two of them are, causes Will's temper to skyrocket. Trying to avoid another confrontation, Alice goes outside to smoke. When Mike, one of the bar staff, brings her a cigarette, Will assumes that Alice is gossiping about him with the staff. That leads to another fight between the two. According to Will, he was not like this before, and Alice is the only reason he has become so angry. Ignoring him, Alice angrily tells him, "You will burn in hell," and walks away. Humiliated in front of everyone, Will gets into his car and drives away, speeding recklessly down the road. That's when he slams into Jessica, who is standing by the roadside. A short while later, Will regains consciousness and thinks about saving Jessica. But that thought is shattered when Jessica suddenly speaks, revealing that they have found Will. And now they are going to eliminate Will, meaning Benjamin's entire family, and take the Kandarian dagger. With that, Jessica chants the cursed spell, possesses Will's body, and drives the car away with him inside, destroying him in the process. It's worth noting that, for the first time in an Evil Dead story, it is not a human reciting an incantation to possess someone. Instead, a deadite itself recites the spell and possesses a human. Following Will's death, a funeral is held near his ancestral home. No matter how much Alice had tried to avoid her in-laws, she has to come here now. She doesn't get along well with her mother-in-law Susan or her father-in-law Edgar. And as for Grandma Polly, the less said about her, the better. Polly is old. She can't even remember what was said a few moments ago, let alone recognize people. When Edgar whistles to call their beloved dog Max, Alice realizes that he inherited this habit from his father. When the time comes to pay tribute to Will, Susan expresses her feelings while taking every opportunity to take jabs at Alice. After that, when it is Alice's turn to speak, she reveals that she did not prepare a speech. This leaves Edgar and Susan less than pleased, to say the least. To lighten the mood, their wedding song is played. But even in the middle of all the grief, Grandma is busy enjoying the music. Later, when Will's body is taken for cremation, Edgar comes to bid his son a final farewell before he is placed into the furnace. Even though he couldn't show his emotions in front of everyone, he was the one hurting the most over his son's death. The cremation worker gives him 5 minutes and steps outside. Then, Edgar suddenly hears a knocking sound. At first, he cannot figure out where the sound is coming from. But a moment later, he realizes that it is coming from inside the coffin. Grieving Father Edgar thinks his son might have come back to life. So he frantically breaks open the coffin, and a burning deadite Will emerges from inside. Terrified by this horrifying transformation of his son, Edgar stands frozen in fear. Just then, the cremation worker enters. Will brutally finishes him off. Edgar doesn't even have the strength to scream for help, because right then, we see his pupils begin to change, signifying that he is on the path to becoming a deadite. From here, everyone gathers at Joseph and Will's ancestral home, meaning Benjamin's lake house. An argument soon breaks out between Susan and Joseph. His mother had told Joseph long ago to throw away his grandfather's belongings, but Joseph never listened to her. In particular, she strongly disliked his research into the occult and demons. Their father was always busy in his own world. And later, when their mother fell ill, Benjamin abandoned the family one day. That's why Susan gets furious at the mere mention of her father's name. However, according to Joseph, their grandfather was not just a history professor. He was also a member of a secret society, and his research papers were no ordinary documents. As their argument escalates, Joseph is finally forced to comply with his mother's demands. Susan tells him to throw out all of his grandfather's research papers. Meanwhile, senile Polly is busy calling Alice a thief. As Joseph goes to dispose of Benjamin's important belongings, he notices his father behaving strangely. Edgar keeps coughing and muttering to himself. After finishing his work, Edgar goes down to the basement. There, he hears someone calling him in the dark. Not only is someone calling him, but the deadite voice is also telling him to hurt himself so they can destroy Benjamin's bloodline. As Edgar loses control and is about to end his own life, Alice suddenly arrives and brings him back to his senses. On the other hand, during a conversation with Susan, Alice realizes that Susan sacrificed all her passions and hobbies under the weight of household responsibilities. Yet, Susan has no regrets. She believes women are born to take care of their families. Before everyone sits down to eat, they watch Will's wedding video. As the video plays, Edgar's condition begins to worsen. While no one else notices, Max clearly senses that something is wrong. Edgar unconsciously runs his fingers over a knife. Right then, Susan asks him to open a wine bottle, snapping him back to reality. But when Edgar goes to grab the bottle opener, he is saved once again. Thea takes it to open the wine bottle herself, giving Alice a chance to remove the knife. Susan asks Alice to take over managing the hotel, but Alice reveals that she hasn't thought about it yet and needs some time. She plans to go to Paris first and spend some time with her family. Susan expresses her displeasure. She believes the family should always be informed before making any important decision. Will had big dreams for that hotel, so now the responsibility of carrying Will's dream forward rests on Alice. However, what this family chooses to ignore is Will's behavior toward Alice. He had always been possessive, and he was abusive too, the kind of husband who controlled and mistreated his wife. Tensions continue to rise among everyone because of this. Meanwhile, Polly takes advantage of the situation and keeps gulping down glasses of wine. Just then, Edgar's speech starts becoming incoherent. He brings up Alice taking off her wedding ring. He also complains about her wearing casual clothes on the day of the funeral, and about her not shedding a single tear for Will. As the argument reaches a boiling point, Susan tries to calm the situation down. She says that Will is watching them from heaven, and that they should maintain peace. To this, Edgar replies that Will is watching them not from heaven, but from hell. Suddenly, Edgar loses control. He brutally slaughters Max with a fork and begins squirming frantically. Seeing his father in this state, Joseph and Thea rush Edgar to the hospital. Meanwhile, Susan still believes that everything is happening because of Alice's indifference toward Will. On the way to the hospital, Edgar dies. The deadite then overtakes his body and unleashes absolute chaos inside the car. Seeing an opportunity, Thea tries to scramble out of the car, but Edgar slams the door shut, severing 4 of her fingers. And Edgar doesn't stop there. As he tries to strangle Thea to death, Joseph points a gun at him and threatens to shoot. Edgar presses his forehead against the barrel of the pistol. Then he mockingly asks, "What's wrong? Are your hands shaking?" When Thea makes a final effort to save herself, Edgar uses the seat headrest to split her head wide open, and he does it right in front of Joseph's eyes. Meanwhile, after burying Max, Alice goes to the storage room. There, she finds Benjamin's research papers lying around. As she reads his diary, Alice learns about the discovery of the Necronomicon in 1983. She also learns about the cursed incantation and the Kandarion dagger. But she is even more surprised to discover that Benjamin did not actually abandon the family. Instead, he kept his distance while continuously searching for a way to protect them. Despite his warnings, the others had read the spell and awakened the Kandarion demon. And out of curiosity, Alice makes the exact same mistake that Joseph and the others had made, despite Benjamin's explicit instructions. Following this, we witness an iconic Evil Dead sequence. But this time, it is the recently buried Max, possessed by a deadite, who rises. After barely managing to kill Max, Alice retreats back inside. Susan is left stunned when she sees Alice's condition. Still speechless, Susan begins asking questions. Just then, an utterly terrified Joseph enters the room. Suddenly, there is a knock at the door. It's Thea's voice, asking them to open it. Polly had seemingly been waiting for this moment. She remarks that Joseph's beggar girlfriend has probably come to take her money. When Alice quickly opens the door, everyone freezes in complete disbelief for a few seconds, because Deadite Thea has returned from the dead, with the seat headrest still jammed through her mouth. She slowly pulls the headrest out of her mouth. Then, she picks up a burning candle from the table, raises it in a toast to Will, and pours the hot wax straight into her mouth while laughing hysterically. Then, she lunges at them with lightning speed. After a horrifying struggle, they barely manage to overpower her. They throw her into the basement and lock the door, once again proving that the basement and Evil Dead have a never-ending love story. After somehow getting the situation under control, Joseph tries to escape with everyone. But the moment they step outside, they find Edgar and his faithful Max waiting for them. Edgar shoots himself in the head multiple times, proving that coming outside is pointless because he cannot die. Meanwhile, in the basement, Thea lights a fire in the fireplace to heat up the room. The others are busy blocking the door. They are determined to survive the night, hoping that the danger will be gone by morning. At one point, Alice bravely pulls back the curtain, and she sees Edgar standing outside, waving goodbye at her. With no clear way out, everyone starts planning their next move. Meanwhile, senile Grandma keeps watching the basement door because Thea is repeatedly bashing against it. And right here comes an iconic horror moment, paying homage to The Shining. When they tell Grandma to open the door, she asks, "Did you come back to return what you stole from me, you beggar?" Thea innocently agrees with Grandma, and that prompts Grandma to unlock the door. Suddenly, everyone hears a loud crash. They rush over and find Grandma lying face down on the floor. Meanwhile, Thea prepares to set the entire house ablaze. Alice spots a grass cutter lying right behind her. As she moves to grab it, she suddenly realizes that Thea has vanished. Where did she go? Suddenly, blood drips onto Alice's head. She looks up, and there, she sees Thea preparing to strike her down. Joseph is left paralyzed with fear, unsure of what to do. As Susan steps in to save her son, Thea tells her there is no point in saving him, because he possesses something they need. While Thea unleashes terrifying carnage, Grandma continues screaming in the background, "I told you she was a thief. Nobody believed me." When Joseph runs into the kitchen to save himself, Thea simply scares him. Joseph loses his balance and falls straight onto his mother's neatly arranged fork set. Taking full advantage of the moment, Thea knocks the entire rack down onto him, causing him even more agonizing pain. When Joseph tries to kill her with a bottle opener, Thea takes the bottle opener from him. She drags it across her own throat, mocking Joseph. Then, she leaves to settle scores with Grandma. The moment Grandma sees her, she says, "There's money hidden under my bed. Take a bundle and get out. I'm really sleepy." Hearing this, Thea pulls Grandma's false teeth out of her mouth. She smears them with her own slimy blood. Then, she says, "There's only one thing I need from that detective memory of yours, where your husband hid the Kandarian dagger." With that, she snaps the teeth back into Grandma's mouth. Suddenly, Thea looks down at Grandma's feet. Then she asks, "What's wrong? Grandma, where are your feet?" Right at that moment, Joseph finds an opportunity. He unleashes all his rage onto Thea's head. The situation grows increasingly dire with every passing moment, because the night is far from over. After some peace temporarily returns to the house, Alice confronts Joseph. She demands answers about the Circle of Wise Men, the Kandarian demon, and Benjamin's diary. He finally reveals that although everyone thought his grandfather was crazy, he had actually been studying the ancient book, the Necronomicon, for a long time. Some people had read the spell from this book, awakening the Kandarian demon and unleashing catastrophe. Since then, he dedicated his entire life to protecting his family from the demon's grasp. He had requested that all of his thesis work be discarded after his death. But Joseph did the exact opposite, and some of his belongings are still hidden in the upstairs room. Among those belongings, the deadites are after one thing, the Kandarian dagger. Meanwhile, when Susan goes to put Grandma to sleep, Grandma suddenly calls out her name. Clueless, Susan walks toward Grandma like a blind person. As Grandma affectionately calls Susan closer, Susan suffers a complete mental breakdown. Taking full advantage of this, Grandma manipulates Susan, telling her that the entire family can be reunited if she does just one thing: open the window over there. This is when we realize that ever since Thea shoved the blood-smeared false teeth into Grandma's mouth, Grandma had already begun transforming into a deadite. Acting like a brainless puppet under a spell, Susan opens the window and lets Edgar, who has been waiting outside, enter the house. As they embrace each other, Edgar takes her through the first stage of becoming a deadite. Afterward, Susan says, "You kissed me like this after so many years. I mean, seriously?" Afterward, Susan comes downstairs and manipulates Joseph, telling him to hand over the Kandarian dagger so they will leave. Just then, the power goes out in the house, and absolute horror breaks loose. After overpowering Susan and leaving her barely alive, Edgar shoves Joseph's face into Thea's broken skull, forcing Joseph to finally confess that he knows where the dagger is. But using a clever trick, Joseph stabs Edgar with the pen he received as a birthday gift, leading into the movie's most unique one-take shot. As Alice saves herself and hides inside a room, Edgar breaks through the door and shoves Joseph's head through the gap. He tells Alice just one thing: she must get the dagger before they do, no matter what. Gathering her courage, a terrified Alice grabs the grass cutter, preparing to use it as her trademark Evil Dead weapon. As Alice comes upstairs with the grass cutter, she prepares to strike Grandma. But Edgar suddenly drives Joseph's pen into Alice's ear and tells Susan to finish her with the machine, blaming Alice for breaking up their family. As Susan obeys like a dutiful daughter, Alice fortunately grabs a piece of broken glass nearby. She shoves it into Polly's eyes, ties her to the lift, and sends her downstairs. Now, Alice has to pull the pen out of her ear. Gritting her teeth, she pulls it out and throws Grandma down the stairs. But Grandma begins cutting her own leg with the glass shard to free herself. Just then, Edgar falls through the ceiling while carrying Joseph, forcing Alice to lock herself in the bathroom with Susan. She ties Susan up with a wire and tries to pull the pen nib out of her ear, but Susan continues blaming her for everything. Having reached her absolute breaking point, Alice shows Susan the bruises on her body and shouts, "These are gifts from your son. Before blaming another woman, you should look at what kind of person your son was." As Alice tries to break through the ceiling to reach the attic, Susan fully transforms into a deadite and shrieks, "You will be dead before sunrise." With that, chaos erupts inside the bathroom. Alice finally ends Susan's nightmare using the grass cutter and climbs up to the attic. There, she finds multiple daggers inside a bag, but she cannot figure out which one is the real Kandarian dagger. Just then, she hears Deadite Joseph from below asking, "Should I come up and help you find it?" Meanwhile, Alice finds an ornate dagger and plunges it into his mouth, but it has no effect because it is not the Kandarian dagger. As Alice tests every dagger one by one, stabbing him repeatedly, she finally uses the smallest and most ordinary-looking dagger. The moment it strikes, the Kandarian demon inside him is banished, leaving Joseph's lifeless body behind. Just as Susan attacks her, Alice tries to escape through the roof, but drops the dagger in the process. As Alice slides down the chimney, Susan follows her, but Alice slashes Susan into pieces with the grass cutter. Right after that, Edgar comes after her as well, but Alice slices him in two, strikes a lighter, sets him ablaze, and steps outside. After burning down the entire house, along with the whole family inside, Alice steps outside, only for the faithful dog Max to pounce on her for one final, fatal attack. However, she plunges the Kandarian dagger into Max's body, finishing him off. A long while later, when Alice regains consciousness, she sees the entire house engulfed in raging flames. Right then, a demonic voice echoes from inside. "It's Will." He says, "So you had to end up right here in the end. Remember you told me I would go to hell? Look, that came true. But this time, you will burn in hell with me because I promised I would stay with you forever. And I came back to keep that promise." Terrified, Alice flees and eventually hides at a construction site. She tries to call for help using a walkie-talkie, but the only thing that plays through the speaker is their wedding song. Just then, Will arrives, throws her into a pit, and an iron rebar pierces her leg. As Will slowly fills the pit with scalding hot tar, Alice desperately pulls her leg free while Will demands the dagger from her. Seeing no other way out, Alice drops the dagger into the hot tar. Will immediately dives into the boiling liquid to retrieve it. Seizing the opportunity, Alice drives a jackhammer straight into Will's chest, causing his body to sink into the tar. As Alice tries to climb out to safety, Will grabs her once again. Fortunately, Alice reaches for the Kandarian dagger lying nearby and plunges it into his chest. Although Deadite Will takes on his normal human form and tries to manipulate her, it doesn't work. After everything she has endured, Alice has finally broken free from her dark past. With Will's death, Alice walks out of the construction site carrying the Kandarian dagger, bringing the night of horror to an end. As the morning sun rises, a team of paramedics arrives at the scene and rescues Alice. While sitting in the ambulance, a paramedic asks her, "Who did this to you?" Alice takes a deep breath and replies, "My ex-husband." Say, "Do you have a cigarette?" And with that scene, Evil Dead Burn comes to an end. However, the mid-credits scene reveals that despite everything, Grandma is still alive. Dragging her legless body forward while cursing Alice, Grandma is spotted by a young woman. The woman notices her condition, stops her car, and gets out to help. Grandma says, "Someone stole one of my legs." Say, "Can I have one of yours?" With that, Grandma touches the girl's leg with her shawl, turning her into a deadite as well, which means the search for the Kandarian dagger will continue. But the story doesn't end there. We are then shown another post-credits scene, this time set in a crematorium. The manager's wife arrives with her young daughter at a room where the urns of unclaimed deceased people are kept. Among them is the urn of Ellie Bixler from Evil Dead Rise. Left alone for a moment, the little girl touches Ellie's urn and suddenly sees Ellie in the mirror. Seeing no one behind her, the girl reaches her finger toward Ellie in the mirror. Ellie crosses over into the real world, kills the girl, and whispers, "Back." And with this chilling scene, the movie Evil Dead Burn comes to an end. Let me know in the comments how you liked the movie. Personally, I really enjoyed the movie. The gore and visual violence were some of the best I've seen, even though the story strays pretty far from the original Evil Dead lore. If I started pointing out all the flaws, this video would end up being an hour long. So, I'll just mention the easiest one. After Ellie Bixler was killed in Evil Dead Rise, how did she return? Because to this day in the Evil Dead franchise, once a deadite is completely destroyed, it has never returned. Even if we assume she somehow survived, Evil Dead Rise showed that Ellie merged her body with Danny and Bridget in the end. So why did Ellie return alone? Where did the other two go? And how did Ellie's urn even get there when she was fed into a wood chipper and turned into paste? But anyway, what did you think about Evil Dead Burn? Let me know in the comments which part of the Evil Dead series is your absolute favorite. And if you enjoyed this movie explanation, don't forget to subscribe to Ghostly Screen for more horror movie explanations. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.